You're listening to the Limitless Broadcasting Network.
All it takes is faith and trust. Oh, and something I forgot. Dust. Just a little bit of pixie dust.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Turn to page 394.
Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not real?
Welcome, Pixie Dusters. We're your favorite hosts. I'm Sammi.
And I'm Ashley. Welcome to the Pixie Dust Twins podcast featuring Dan.
Hello, hello.
I went down an octave this time.
Dan.
Oh, goodness. What?
All right, that's it. A great episode. Have a good night, everyone.
What are we waiting on?
You gonna keep starting.
Oh, did you want me to do the whole intro? Normally,
Oh, that's
you still
right.
like
That's right.
you babble on and you do like we're talking about the In Memoriam thing today.
I was waiting for you to go into all that.
No, I told you can be in charge of this one.
Well, I knew you wanted me to do the episode, but you always do the intro part.
Do I?
This was a miscommunication by far.
Do I normally do the intro?
Yes, because you talk so much. Yes, you normally do the
You usually
intro.
do the intro and then you just say, here's what we're doing.
Thank you.
So please take it away.
Okay, so here's what we're doing. We're
you, Dan.
doing In Memoriam.
That's what we're doing.
We're going to be crying today.
Staring at each other and this is terrible. Okay.
We're going to be doing In Memoriam of our
Yes.
Harry Potter series. And Sammi has graciously put some notes together.
And that's not really what happened. Let's be more clear on how this went. Ashley started this and then was like, I don't know what to do with it. And then I went in and added notes. And then just before we recorded, she said, you're going to do it. You're going to run the episode. And I was like, fine. Okay. Sounds great.
Well, we all got pretty sad on the last one and Ashley hosted most of it. So
it's fine. I don't mind hosting.
tried.
But she acted like I volunteered for this, but I didn't technically volunteer. It was just
you did
throwing
not
stuff
volunteer
on
as
me.
tribute.
You
No.
did volunteer to help me if I needed help.
I did, and then you waited until yesterday to tell me
Because
you
I didn't-
needed help.
Because my life was crazy.
That was like Tuesday. I asked you if you needed help, and you were like, "I'll
asked
get
on
back to you."
Thursday.
And then Friday, you're just like, "Oh, by the way, now I need help." And I'm like, "Great, and now I work until 8 tonight. What are you doing to me?"
Why didn't you say that?
No, it was
Honestly,
fine.
the only reason I asked is because I really didn't know what to do with this episode.
No,
I'm
it's
like,
okay.
I have the list of people. I don't know how to. I don't even know how to present it.
Yeah, it's
Because
okay.
all
We're
I'm
gonna
do is
work
cry.
it. We're gonna figure it out. I think. I don't know. I don't have a great idea either, but we're gonna just work it all out together. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Absolutely,
Poor
no
Dan.
problem.
Dan's just sitting there like, I'm just gonna watch this train
Dan
wreck.
he comes around for the ride. It's
We'll
cool.
see what happens.
It's cool. No worries. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we have a list of, I don't even know how many people there are on this list that we are going to go through of people who have passed.
And these are only actors. If there's been
Yes.
anybody that we've lost that was like in the back, like the crew of some sort, we do not have them on this list.
No, these are actors. Yeah. Well, we should specify that. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one I'm going to start with is Paul Ritter. He was 54 years old when he passed. And I had to look up this character. I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw it on the list, he was Eldred Warple. He makes one appearance in The Half-Blood Prince at Slughorn's party, I believe.
Oh.
So he was one of the people that were collected by Slughorn. He's older. He's like an adult that was at the party.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like he came back.
Yeah, for the party. Yeah,
One
so
of,
he
like,
wasn't a
reunion
student.
or an alumni Slughorn party. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sorry, Paul Ritter, but I had to look you up and see. He's done other things, but yeah, I had to look him up and see what his character was because I had no idea.
Yeah, I almost didn't put him on the list because I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, it's okay. I looked it up for us, so there we go. So rest in peace, Paul Ritter.
Yes.
There you go.
And I did not know this. Elizabeth Spriggs, who was the fat lady portrait, I did not know that she had passed away
I didn't
until you
either.
put this together. So that's one
Mhm.
that kind of surprised me. I had no idea. that she had passed. Yeah. That was a bit of a surprise. And then we have Dave Lagano, who passed at 50 years old. He was Fenrir, Greyback. And again, I really had no idea, maybe had seen it in the news when it happened, but I did not realize he had passed away either. And he was not that old. He was like, they found him like he went out running or something. Like they found him like outside, like randomly, and they said it was like a super hot day. So I don't know if he passed out from like heat exhaustion or what, but that was very sad when I was trying to look and see what happened to him. So yeah, that's super unfortunate. Then we've got Hazel Douglas. She was 92 years old. Bathilda Bagshot, 92. I knew she was pretty up there.
He looked 92
when she was in Harry Potter. Yes. So she lived a very long life with a very long career. So yes, shout out to you, Hazel Douglas, 92. That's a pretty good age. And then Robert Hardy, who was Cornelius Fudge, lived to be 91.
Did not realize he was this old.
I did not either. Okay, that makes me feel better because I went back and I was like looking at pictures of him and I was like, okay, I did not realize you were that old.
Yep. I thought maybe he was in his 50s when he did these movies, so he would be in his 70s right now in my mind. Oh no, he was 91.
91 when he passed. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah, he did. I was really surprised. Oh, it was crazy. And then we've got Paul Grant, and this was another one. He passed at 56 years old, and I always think it's so sad when you see people who pass so young, you know, because that's not old enough to have passed away. Yeah. He was actually a Gringotts goblin in the very first Harry Potter movie, because I was curious, you know, what he had played. But he had a big career. He was actually an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, you know, the goblin in Harry Potter, and he also was in the Goblin Corps in The Labyrinth. He played in that too. And he did stunts on Willow. I was like, oh wow.
I remember when he passed. I remember hearing about this just because there were so many connections with Star Wars and Labyrinth and all that.
Yeah, and Harry Potter. There was a lot. Yeah. And he passed outside of King Cross Station. And I was like, there's another like weird Harry Potter tie-in to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another unfortunate one. Again, just feeling so bad, you know, so young.
Yeah.
And we'll have to acknowledge Leslie Phillips, 98 years old when he passed. 98. Holy cow. He was the Sorting Hat voice. And I'll be honest, when we were putting this together, I started looking up everyone's careers. This guy, dear listeners, should look him up because his career is insane. How many things he has done acting wise. I'm going to be real. I only am like, oh, he's the Sorting Hat voice. And that's the only memorable thing he will be to me. But this guy had a very long and busy career up until his death. So I definitely IMDb him if you're curious. It's a lot of stuff.
174. He's just as an actor.
Yeah, I just was like reading through it and I was like, well, we're not going to be talking about all this. I'm sorry, Leslie Phillips. We're going to stick with the Sorting Hat because I cannot cover this. It's so many things. And again, this is just what we were talking about in the last episode. Like there were so many people involved in Harry Potter that had such big illustrious careers that we just didn't realize. And same thing with the kids. They didn't realize either who they were working with. So same idea.
And Tomb Raider. The original like Angelina Jolie one.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. No idea. Yeah.
Sorry. I just
telling you, look them up because yeah, it's a lot of stuff. No idea.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Rob Knox. This was another actor. I did double look him up after Ashley had looked him up. But he was Marcus Belby. So he was also in Half-Blood Prince. He was the kid eating the ice cream at the table and during the dessert scene. Yeah. And he actually died just days after he filmed his Harry Potter scene, which is just terrible. So his life was cut short at age 18 in May 2008 when he was knifed outside a bar in southeast London because he was intervening in a fight to protect his younger brother. And I just thought that was horrible.
Jeez.
18.
So horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's very sad, you know. And yeah, it was a very short scene, but he seemed to get along well with a lot of the cast. He seemed pretty friendly with a lot of them too. even
That
though he
couldn't have
wasn't
been
in it
easy
very
for the
much.
actors.
I can't
Like, even
imagine.
though it was only one scene, like that had to be very difficult
Mm-hmm.
for these young actors to
I
hear
agree.
like someone they just worked with got killed.
Mm-hmm.
At
Yeah,
that age, like barely even begun in life.
for
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way too young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was very sad too, to read about and find out what happened to him. But they've really tried, his family tries to make a point of using his legacy. So they raise money, I think, to specifically try and combat like I think they said knifings in particular. So, people, deaths related to that. And they really try and honor him like every year too with a memorial. So, yeah.
Good.
And then we've got Helen McCrory. She was 52 years old in April 2021 when she passed. She was Narcissa. And this one was also sad. She had cancer when she passed away. And yeah, it just, everyone has such nice things to say about her. And in the special that we just talked about last week, you got Tom talking about her, and he really was welling up, and you could see how important she was to him because he got to spend, a decent amount of time with her since she was his mom on set. And yeah, another one that everybody just said she was such an amazing actress. And I agree, like, really, this is the main thing I know her in, but she was also in Peaky Blinders. I believe when she passed, she was actively still on that show. But, for us, it's Narcissa, and she did such an amazing job embodying that character. She's the only one I could ever see as that character. We were talking about that when they reboot everything, but she's another one that I couldn't see anybody else being her at all.
I love what Jason Isaac said when they were talking about her, and he said the first time he worked with her, he's like, I think I just met the best female actor that I've ever worked with. And just they very much thought so highly of her.
They really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another sad one. And then we have Richard Griffiths. He was 65 years old. He was our Vernon Dursley. Again, if you don't know him outside of Harry Potter, look him up. He's had a very big career too. He was a very well-known actor before he was in Harry Potter. And I know Daniel Radcliffe had, in an interview, had specifically talked about his very first day on set acting with him and how he was being so kind to him and helping lead him through this scene. And I thought that was wonderful too, because obviously as the character, bit unpleasant, but the man was
not actually Vernon.
No, the man was much kinder than Vernon Dursley. And he actually said in a 2007 interview that I like playing Vernon Dursley in Harry Potter because that gives me a license to be horrible to kids. I hate the odious business of sucking up to the public. It just made me laugh that he's like, oh, yeah, it's a great way to be horrible to children. Like, you fit the part.
That's horrible as he was. Like, I kind of feel that.
I mean,
I get it.
Honestly, like, I get some of it. Like, they did treat Harry like really terribly, but I mean, I could understand like losing your patience with Harry Potter at times.
Absolutely.
Really and truly. I could get it.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
Yes, I was just about to say he was King George.
Yes, he was King George in Harry Potter or in Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. So yeah, because I remember when he showed up in there, I was like, it's
Vernon.
What are you doing here?
That's literally how I look at everything. If a Harry Potter character walks in, I'm like, oh, whoever. And they're like, I feel like my friends here, they're like, Ashley, really? I'm like, yes, that's how I base everything on my life. If they were a character in Harry Potter.
Because that's how we like
Wars,
met
either
them.
one.
That's how we met them, It doesn't matter what they did before. That's how we know them, It's fair.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
All right, Ashley, we're going to go to John Hurt next. 77 years old. He was Ollivander. And so much more, though. John Hurt's been, again, legendary actor.
Huge. He was, he played the War Doctor in Doctor Who, which was one of my favorite episodes. He was the voice of a dragon in the show Merlin, which was a BBC remake of like King Arthur. He was in a ton of things, and this one hurt. This one hurt a lot for me. losing John Hurt. His characters I really truly loved, and watching, and just Ollivander in general, like playing Ollivander, and his how he interacted with Harry, even in just a short scene that we get at the beginning, is just so cool, because he kind of, I feel like he's kind of the gatekeeper into the start of your magical journey, because you are getting the wand.
Yeah.
And he kind of plays that in some of the other characters that I love, just this transitional piece, and just a great actor that we lost too soon.
Truly.
And I think it was cancer, if I remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
I think a lot of them were cancer that we lost early.
There were a lot
some
of
sort of disease.
Yeah, there was a lot of that listed, and that was tough. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, another great one. Absolutely. Well, they're all great. I mean, as we're hitting on all of these, they're all amazing. Absolutely.
They are. They just hit for us differently on certain ones.
Yeah. And we've got Richard Harris, 72 years old, our original Albus Dumbledore. And well, to be fair, I was about to say, because I was looking up, reading about them and their legacies and what I could find. And, I saw this article that was basically like, when you pick up a Harry Potter book and you read it, whose voice do you hear? And you hear Richard Harris. When you think of Dumbledore, who are you thinking about? You're probably thinking Richard Harris. And that's so true. He was in 2 movies out of 8, and yet he is so iconic for the character, the way he played the character. Yeah.
And he's only one of 3 now that have portrayed Dumbledore. I mean, technically we have a younger Dumbledore of Jude Law. But still, it's like, it's so crazy that only 2 movies, and these others have done more, and you still are the one who's the most influential in that role.
Yep, he's the one you think of. The voice you hear.
Yeah, I love what Emma called him.
Yeah, in the special, I had to write it down. She's like, he was twinkly. And I was like, oh, what a cute way to describe the vibe, And you could just look at him now, and I'm like, he does look twinkly. I get it.
There's a spark to him. Just like, as old as he was, like, he never lost that sense of just wonder, just like that spark of love.
Yes. It's so true. Yeah, and unfortunately, as you said, it was cancer, which is why he ultimately died just days before the second movie premiered in the US. So, so unfortunate that we lost him. If only we could have seen him go further in the movies,
Yeah. He had a little bit of a career, did a lot of, he did a lot of like classics. Like I'm seeing like Hunchback of Notre Dame and, what's Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, like a more serious actor.
Which I believe Camelot. He was King Arthur in a Camelot in the 80s. Just which he seems like that type of actor more than just he's not the blockbuster one. He's the Academy Oscar Award actor.
He's the snobby actor.
Not the people's choice.
Right. He's not a movie star. He is an actor.
Yes.
And yet in here, he will forever live on the legacy, because like we just said, he is our Albus Dumbledore, and he will always have that now.
Yep.
Forever.
Thank you. Was it his child or his grandchild?
Grandchild, I believe.
Grandchild. Thank you, grandchild.
Yeah, that was like, I'm never going to talk to you. You need to be Albus.
Talk to you if you don't do this.
You need to be Albus Dumbledore. And they were right. Good choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, where are we going now?
We're going to go with Alan Rickman. We're going to save the probably worst one for last. So, although those last 2 are pretty terrible. So,
these last 2 are the hardest.
I know. I was like, we're just going to suffer towards the end. So, we have Alan Rickman, only 69 years old when we lost him. Again, I read it was to cancer when he passed.
Pancreatic cancer?
Prostate or pancreatic. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, he was our Severus Snape. And, just if you look up Alan Rickman, I mean, obviously his career, first of all, is insane with the amount of things he's done. He's directed pieces before, and it's crazy. But they also, which I did not know this, but they found his diaries and they released like excerpts of them in a book. a couple years ago.
What?
Wow.
Why do I not own
No
this
idea.
book?
So I was like last night, like this is why I didn't get very far in doing much because I ended up like reading excerpts from his journals or his diaries from, when he was out filming and talking
Yeah.
about Harry Potter and he's got a very dry humor. So some of the things when you read, you're a little like, okay, like it seems like you hate everybody, but that's not true.
Well, it's a diary. Like he's gonna put that sort of
Exactly.
stuff in there.
And reading some interviews about some of the directors when they worked with him, they were like when he was on set, he was very much channeling Severus Snape. So he was like a bit, they kind of didn't really enjoy
He's
being
very
around him,
method.
standoffish. Yes.
He was
But
Snapey.
exactly, but they were like outside of it. He was very pleasant to be around, and and I think I saw another quote where, and I can't remember if he said about himself or someone said it about Alan Rickman, but was basically like, "You think he's a jerk?" Now they did not say jerk; they used a word that starts with an A that I will not say on the podcast, but that he's a jerk, but he's just British, and I was like, okay.
That seems accurate.
And with the voice, I think they were saying too, like in some of the interviews, it's because of the voice and his mannerisms. It can come off as a little more standoffish than what he truly is or what he means when he says things. And I was like, I could see that with the deep voice and everything. It goes with it. Absolutely.
Emma Thompson does a contribution in the book.
I did not see that. I was so busy reading the excerpts, I didn't even realize that. That's so nice.
Yeah, I'm looking
They
at
worked together a lot. Him and Emma
they
Thompson.
did.
They were on a lot of things. He directed her in a project. So yeah, I think they were very
married.
good friends.
They were married in Love Actually. Didn't have the
Yes.
great marriage in Love Actually. He was a dum-dum in Love Actually.
He was. He makes me very upset in Love Actually because I love him so much. And I'm like, why are you so stupid in this movie?
Who was he? Because I've seen Love Actually. I'm trying to remember who he was.
He was
the boss,
the business boss man,
and he had the affair with that young lady, the
yeah,
secretary.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he buys her the necklace, and then Emma has the amazing
the necklace.
Oh, the amazing scene where she breaks down, and
yes.
I love her so much, and them together is just
perfection. So good.
Perfection.
Yeah. So when Jason Isaac is describing, or not Jason, it wasn't Jason, Rafe. When Rafe, I said it right. Haha.
I know.
When Rafe was describing Alan during the In Memoriam part and in the special that we talked about last week, I don't think I have exactly the line from it, but he was talking about that he was a magician. Alan was a magician at reeling lines, and he was just it was like it felt like I was fencing with another amazing actor because he even said he's like, I was kind of intimidated to do these scenes with him.
Yeah.
Because of how good he is at his job. And just hearing that and it's true. Anything you saw him in, from Harry Potter to something serious to, I mean, for crying out loud, it was a villain on Die Hard, the first one, right? First one? Yes, first one. He was a blockbuster movie. He was perfection.
Villain of the 80s. Like
yeah,
really and truly he was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
Sheriff of Nottingham also in
oh yes, he was.
Yeah.
Sheriff. Yeah, he's been in so many things.
So many things.
It's like I said, his career is insane.
Yeah.
It's and there are bits.
Always be Rasputin.
To you,
Rasputin.
yeah.
Was he Rasputin in something?
In like there was like a '90s made-for-TV series about like the life of Rasputin. He played him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
See, it's hard to even list everything they've been in.
Did you ever see him in Galaxy Quest?
Yes, because the first time I was like, wait a second, what?
Are you enjoying your Kepler ticks, Dr. Lazarus? Just like Mother used to make.
Everything he says, it's just no matter what the character is, it's the voice. I mean,
and he's the voice of Absalom in Alice in Wonderland and as Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Yes, he was in those.
That voice was perfect for that.
I think Alan is another obvious Tim Burton big buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Martin, the robot, the depressed robot.
I never saw that movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he played him.
Okay.
Martin. I can't remember. But yeah.
So many things.
Just a robot who's depressed about life. Like, imagine that just in Alan Rickman's voice.
Gotcha.
Hey, you want to do this? Of course. I won't enjoy it.
Oh, that's so great.
Dogma.
Yeah. I forgot about
Why
that.
was he in Dogma?
I can't.
It's so
been
funny
so
to
long
see
since I've seen that.
because he's this like anytime I think of Alan Rickman, I think just this serious actor,
Right?
not superstar actor. But then
Yes.
he's in these random things like
They're
Galaxy
so
Quest and
funny.
Dogma, but he brings the series into it and it's just perfect.
Yes. You can tell you can't take yourself too seriously and pick some of these parts, you know?
It's true.
Right. He was in Sense and Sensibility.
He was
one
in
of my
Sense and
Austen,
Sensibility.
one of my Jane Austen ones.
Yes. He was, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And
I miss him.
He did think about leaving Harry Potter at one point too. He has a lot of criticisms in his journaling. But to be fair, I think I would be pretty cranky about being on sets for like all day long. And he like was making comments about sometimes it's more about the shot than it is about what's actually going on in the scene and things like that. So I would think I would be a little frustrated too, as you know, being grown up.
Well, you're also working with a bunch of like little kids.
For a while.
For him, this is probably like ridiculously, like it's taking ridiculously longer than it should to probably do a scene,
get through some of it
because you have all these kids around. So
but
I can understand that.
He ultimately, it's something like he said, you need to see it through. This is your story. It was something like that. So he ended up sticking with it. And after the last book came out, he said, one small piece of information from Joe Rowling 7 years ago, Snape loved Lily, gave me a cliff edge to hang on to. So, and as we said, that's why it influenced his Snape, and honestly is why it's much better than book Snape. I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, I'm trying to think now, like, if he didn't continue, I feel like there would have been an uproar. Like, I don't think anybody else would have been able to fill that shoe.
No. There's no way. There's no way.
It would have been a disaster.
It was difficult enough going from Richard Harris to Michael Gambon.
It was, and that was out of necessity. Yeah,
right.
We had no choice in that one.
No choice, exactly. So yeah, I can't even imagine someone like as iconic as Snape going to be replaced, from without.
And he did, even if he thought about leaving, he did spend a lot of time on set fighting for what he thought was appropriate for his character too. So he obviously had a lot of care going into it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said it many times, like he's the one who made Snape redeemable in the movies, at least, or at least relatable.
He's because the book Snape is not redeemable. He's not relatable. He is essentially a kind of sub villain in all the books.
He's a villain who just happens to help you on your quest.
Yeah. And the only reason he helped you is because of your mother,
right?
Who your mother was. That's the only reason he didn't shove you down a staircase.
Right.
Because if your mother was different, he probably would have shoved him down a staircase.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one.
Why is this one so hard?
It's because of who he is. Robbie Coltrane. He was 72 years old when he passed in October 2022. So just about a year ago now. Coming up on a year since he passed. It's because of who he is. He's Hagrid. He may not have had the biggest part in the movies. In the books, obviously, he had more to do in there. But I don't know, like Hagrid was such a big part of this story and the taking Harry in and making him feel welcome and a part of Hogwarts, I think that's a big thing. And when you saw him as Hagrid, you were like, this is it. You have that feeling. I mean, at least I did about a lot of characters in Harry Potter, but I know when I saw Hagrid, I was like, that dude, that is Hagrid right there. That's who I pictured. That's it right there. Yep. And he had a big career too. Same thing before he was in Harry Potter. A lot of comedies, very well known actor, but he had to kind of adjust to now being so well known. Like this really amped up his attention, and especially from kids. And he really valued that. And I think that was so important too, and so special coming from him.
Yeah. And I forgot he was Lord Dingwall in Brave. He was the voice of Lord Dingwall in Brave.
I forgot that too. When I was looking up, I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, I probably would have heard it as soon as I watched the movie.
Well, yeah, right. The voice, yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty distinctive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, just a legend.
He's that safe presence that when he shows up, you know, both just with Haggard and as himself, like you feel like, okay, everything's going to be okay. You know, you just feel like you feel safe with him.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's so iconic. Like, you know, we talk about all the key moments, especially in the beginning of what brings you into the magic. And Hagrid is the first big step. He comes to, he brought Harry to the house first, and then he comes to get him and rescue him and take him. And yeah, that line, "You're a wizard, Harry," that will live in everybody's like lexicon forever.
Oh, always.
Forever and ever.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember, like, I cannot remember where I was or what I was doing when Alan or anybody else passed. Like, I can't. I remember where I was and what I was doing and what time of the day it was when I found out that he passed. I was at fall retreat last year. I was laying in my bed. I woke up before everybody else. All my kids were still sleeping. Because I was a leader, I was able to have my phone. So I got on my phone real quick. I looked at Facebook to keep me, maybe to bore myself back to sleep. And the first thing I saw when I opened up my Facebook page that morning was Robbie Coltrane had passed. And I remember just starting to bawl in my bed. There's not very many actors who, when they have passed, that I have cried. And Harry was one of them. And Robbie was another. I don't think I cried for anybody else. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. And I'm crying now. Because he's a big part of our childhood. He was the big goofy Care Bear that we wanted to have on our side. He his character, like, just protecting the trio that he did, and how he treated Emma, which I always aligned myself with Emma growing up, being the book nerd, being the one that all the boys made fun of and thought I was weird and bossy and all the things. Like, that was me in middle school and high school. Like, that's how they looked at me. And Hagrid was the one to protect her, and I always felt that protection as well. He is probably one of the best characters in the book series for me.
He's so important. Really is.
Yeah, I don't cry like this anymore for Alan or any of them, but for some reason, Robbie, every time it comes up, I cry.
Well, he is super important. Really and truly.
Yeah.
And I did take that whole quote from the from the In Memoriam in the last one, where he does say, "The legacy of the movies is that my children's generation will show them to their children. So you could be watching it in 50 years' time, easy. I'll not be here, sadly, but Hagrid will." Yes. And it's so poignant. I mean, it's true for all of these people that we've been talking about, but yeah, I mean, Hagrid, again, was just so special. And they have that great moment in the second movie, you know, where they really honor Hagrid, and now it's like even more special to look back on and rewatch because of that. And his agent, who had been with him for over 40 years, said that the role of Hagrid was the reason he received a stream of fan letters every week for over 20 years. And I thought that was so wonderful too, that he would just get all of these letters for so many years. So that means generation of generation, new kids coming of age and watching Harry Potter would write to him and say how much they loved him. And I thought that was so special too. And then some of the other tributes, like Daniel Radcliffe specifically talked about how Robbie would keep them laughing as kids. And I thought that was great on set, because we've talked about, like, they had so much fun on the set and let them be kids. And Daniel said, "I have especially fond memories of him keeping our spirits up on Prisoner of Azkaban when we were all hiding from the torrential rain for hours in Hagrid's hut, and he was telling stories and cracking jokes to keep morale up." And I thought that was great. And then James Phelps, who was Fred in the series, had said on Twitter that when he was 14 years old, he was nervous on his first day on set, but Robbie came over and said, "Enjoy it. You'll be great." And I thought that was really, really, really special too. And then, of course, Emma Watson, she wrote a very long tribute to him.
I remember.
Yeah, but one of my favorite things was that she had said there was no better Hagrid. You made it a joy to be Hermione. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot more. Yeah, like there's like a million tributes to him, and I was like,
so many.
I can't read all of these, but yeah, you can find them on the internet. But those are some of my favorite ones. But everybody just loved him. Everybody really did. They all said he was a big teddy bear, and again, so he seemed more like Hagrid than not, from what I read about him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad there's nobody else. I'm glad, like.
Would you like me to find someone else we can talk about? No,
I'm glad that.
No, just end it there.
No, I'm thinking like in my head, I'm like, okay, Maggie, you got to hold out a little bit longer for me. I can't do this yet.
I was like, I'm gonna really struggle if we have to add somebody else to this list before we get here. So thank you, Dame Maggie Smith, for making it through.
Yeah,
appreciate it, and everybody else.
Oh my gosh,
yeah. World. Yes, thank you.
Well, it's like Maggie's getting up there. Julie Andrews is up there. I'm just saying some people.
Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke. How are you still here?
How is Dick Van Dyke the way he is? And he's like so old.
He's like he's it's as if he was still 20.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
What is your secret, Dick Van Dyke? What is your secret?
Whatever it is, I hope I got it.
I think it's just laughter. I really do.
I mean, he does seem like he's always having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hamill and Harrison. Those are kind of the ones that when it happens, because sadly someday it's going to, I will lose it again.
Yeah.
Those are my influences.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least my older ones. Like if there's younger people who pass, that's worse.
I mean, yeah, like I said, some of these made me so sad when I looked at their ages. I was like, oh, it's terrible.
It is. It's so sad. But most of them, sadly not Rob, but he protected his younger brother. So he went out kind of a hero's death. But we got to experience everyone throughout the whole movie except for Richard. Everyone was still around except for Richard Harris, not Griffith.
Yeah.
Be specific.
I know. That's another thing. Keep everyone in your head.
Keep everyone straight.
Yeah.
We got to experience, and they got to experience this. And they didn't have to leave it in the middle, which was just not only great for us, but probably great for them. Because this is one of those series that it is a life-changing series. It's not, it's a Star Wars, it's a Lord of the Rings, it's a actually I kind of would think it's more in my head, the worldwide influence is probably more than Lord of the Rings in my head, and maybe even either right there or maybe even more than Star Wars in some aspects. Some aspects, not all. I'm thinking more of like the later stuff.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
Yeah.
I would argue that book Lord of the Rings was probably more than Harry Potter, just because it was the first one to really go in that direction.
Well, I think I think it's safe to say that the book Lord of the Rings, and even the book Chronicles of Narnia, kind of opened us up for Harry Potter. Absolutely. Even though there was much,
like without those, there would be no Harry Potter.
Yeah, they led the way.
Yeah, even though a lot of religious people went against the books when they came out because they're witchcraft. And I always love to look at them because some of them were in my youth group, and I'm like, well, what Lord of the Rings? They're like, yes, but it's based on Christian faith. I'm like, but there's orcs and elves and things that are not real, just like and there's magic. So what?
Like you do it's made up, right? Like
it always
not real. It's not a
yes, but it was written by a Christian author.
Oh, so that's why.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, well. Christian influence, I don't know, something Lewis, of that nature.
Tolkien, I think he was Catholic at one point, but I don't know what he was actually like he.
But that's the thing, they hold on to that. They hold on that he grew up in the Christian faith or the Catholic faith.
Okay.
I mean, Lord of the Rings.
I'm not telling them they're right.
No, I know, it just makes me laugh.
I'm completely with you. I think it's like Lord of the Rings is like literally just it's Celtic mythology with a few vaguely Catholic undertones. Like that's pretty much it.
I mean, C.S. Lewis was more. I mean, it was specifically like straight up said Aslan's God and all the or Jesus or whatever the analogies were. But that was the big thing was for some reason, someone made it sound like Tolkien was a faith man. So they clung on to that, even if he might not have been towards the end there.
Apparently, they disagreed on a lot. Him and Lewis, like, they would go back and forth on like how to approach, like, how to write their stories, letting their beliefs influence them. Like, they disagreed on a lot of things. It was really interesting.
That's interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of, I mean, the next big debate was between Rawlings and Myers.
Right.
Oh, that's not.
Except there wasn't much of a debate.
I was like, who's debating this?
Okay, but back when
I
Twilight
remember
started, it was a pretty big debate.
It was.
It would go back and forth.
What's the debate though? Like, which one's better, or which one's?
What's the debate? That's the question. Right
yeah, that is the question. It was which one was better when the books were coming out around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing was that Stephanie didn't know how to kill off her characters.
Fair enough.
Because Stephanie didn't. She literally let everyone live.
Yeah,
people
there
should
was
have
no
died.
climax to any of this nonsense.
Yeah, it was more of who's a better writer. That's what the debate was.
Which I don't understand. We got fan fiction versus an actual story, but okay.
In terms of what was popular for young adults, I would put it between Rowling and Suzanne Collins, who did the Hunger Games.
That's a more fair debate there.
It is a more fair debate, but everyone loved both of them, so there was no really like.
They didn't want to argue about it.
They didn't argue
Which
because
Hunger Games came out much later than Harry Potter too, but.
Yeah. What else is going on during that time of Potter? Yeah, I don't remember if there was another big book series.
I don't remember either.
On.
I was so obsessed with Harry Potter. I don't remember.
It was Potter, Twilight. Hold on. I don't know if this is going to give me any results, but I'm going to try. No, what other books? I don't want the list of Harry Potter books. See, I need to be more specific, apparently.
Popular books of the 2000s or early 2000s.
Yeah, that would have been a better search.
What did you search for?
Don't even want to say it on camera. Popular books.
She definitely typed something in that didn't make any sense.
Made sense to me. Popular YA books.
Thank goodness for Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Hunger Games started at the end. Sarah Dessen was a big one. I remember Sarah Dessen being big, but she was realistic fiction. She wasn't.
It wasn't in this.
Trend.
No.
Christopher Polino, Aragon. The Aragon books started coming out at the same time. John Green was really big during then, but again, not
really the same
realm.
Yeah.
Lightning Thief. Percy Jackson was coming out at the same time.
Oh.
That was a big one. Still is. There's a new Percy Jackson book coming out. He's in high school now. I'm so excited.
Oh wow. They're still doing
books. So they have two 5-book series of Percy Jacksons, and now they're starting another one.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, that would have probably been the better comparison was between Rick Riordan and Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief, and Harry Potter. Which I'm still going to say Harry Potter is better, even though I have a huge love for Rick Riordan and the Lightning Thief. That is supposed to be coming out next year, I believe. I'm super excited.
Wow. Okay.
The book's coming out now. The series,
right? The series. That's right.
Out. 21 young adult books every millennial read in the 2000s.
There you go.
Oh, goodness. Perks the Wallflower, Paper Towns, Twilight, Hunger Games. That came out in 2008. It's loading very slowly. Darn you, BuzzFeed. Truth About Forever, Looking for Alaska. Yeah, a lot of these are... realistic fiction was a bigger thing during the 2000s.
Yeah.
And that's why there wasn't that many debates with fantasy, because fantasy wasn't as revered, and now all we see is fantasy right now. Fantasy. It's like we're going into we've been in a fantasy, so at some point people are going to get sick of fantasy and they're going to come back out into realistic fiction.
Exactly. Yeah.
It comes in waves.
It kind of, it's a wave thing.
Come down to
I really need them to get into that new wave because I'm sick of having all this crap that I have to shift through to see if it's a good fantasy book to read.
Yeah. I feel like we're not far off from that though. Like I think people are starting to get kind of fantasy fatigue.
I need them too, because I would like better books to come out in fantasy world. Yeah. When I feel like whenever there's a wave of something, that one's having a lot of like random, almost similar books coming out just on repeat. And you have the good ones, the good books, because they're being more picky on the other genres that are not in that wave. And I need it again because the crap that's coming out in fantasy right now, I feel like they're all the same. I'm like, I am so sick of this.
Yeah, it's too many people rely on the high fantasy element of like, oh, hey, how am I going to fix this plot hole? Well, magic, something magic, something whatever. Like, I feel like it would be more low fantasy that would make it more grounded, like a Game of Thrones type thing, where it's, they don't rely so much on the structure of the world, but the character development,
Yeah, we've gotten away from character development. We're not really a character-driven in character-driven books anymore. We're in plot-driven.
Exactly.
And that's driving me crazy because I'm a character-driven writer and reader.
Yeah.
That's why I hated Twilight after I finally got out of that haze, because it is character-driven and there's no character.
You don't think so?
There's no character. All right, we are way off topic.
We did wander off a bit.
We did.
We got sad and then talked about something else.
We needed to get our minds off of the sadness because Ashley was bawling. Please don't put that in a video anywhere. You can just be nice.
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to make like a TikTok about you crying.
Okay, good. Because there was a lot of more crying moments for me in this series. Oh my gosh. So I don't know what to tell you guys about next week because
oh boy.
We don't really have anything planned for September yet.
As we discovered.
Yeah. I thought we were going to be talking about D23 Expo, but that only happens every other year from what I was told. No, it's happening Sunday to September 10th.
Are you sure that it's the actual D23 Expo?
That's what it's saying. It's on the D23 website. Because this year was 100 years. I wonder if they're doing it because it hit 100. It's already sold out. Well, of course, it's August, but okay, so Pixie Dusters, there's a potential of us talking about a D23 Expo if there actually is one going on. But
it's called Destination.
Yeah,
that's not the same D23 thing. That's a different thing. That's not the Expo. No, the Expo is next year. Which is probably still sold out, even though it's next year.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
pondered
talking about Disney Plus Day. We've also pondered talking about what it's like to be a pass holder and what it's like to be a part of the DVC, which is the Disney Vacation Club. If that's actually what we do, come next week to find out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Dan told us, just so our listeners know, especially if he's your favorite voice on this podcast, he is going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus. I think starting, what'd you say, September 8th?
September 8th, 9th.
Okay. So he might be in one more episode before he has to take a hiatus. He does something really cool at a certain park that we're not going to tell you unless he wants to, but he is going to be doing that for the Halloween season. And then he will be returning in November.
Yes, I should return in November. I would talk about it. I just don't know how much I'm allowed to actually talk about via social media. So, because they're real picky about like.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know if you want them to know where you're working. So. Yeah. Yeah. So we will see you Pixie Dusters next week. We hope you enjoyed our Harry Potter summer, and we will see you back at Disney next Wednesday.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it'll be somewhat Disney
Something
related.
will come out. I don't know. There'll be an episode.
It'll be there.
Oh boy. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Pixie Dust Twins podcast featuring Dan. The show is written and produced by Ashley and Sammi, except for those manifestos, which are all written by Dan himself. Intro and audio editing by Sammi, logo created by Ashley. This show is produced as part of the Limitless Broadcasting Network. Make sure you check out all of our other shows and have a magical day.